want you to know that even though we doing it real grand, if this
podcast
shit don't work, we running up in niggas' houses, my word.
Welcome back to the Red Clay podcast. This is your host, Dana Jones.
This is Micah White.
And we got a returning guest.
My name is Siatta. Hello, everybody.
Welcome back by Black by popular demand.
Appreciate you.
But this was Micah's idea to have Siatta on for this particular topic that we're talking about, which is the performance of excellence, right?
Yeah.
So why do you want to have Siatta on for the audience that don't know?
You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as I've known Siatta's always been like an artist, a very, like intentional, very just big, like creative. And I don't know, I haven't known you to do like performance art or anything like that. Maybe you have, because you got a whole world of shit like that. But that's just kind of my thinking. I was just curious about like, another artist, another creative's like perspective on like performance and creating and in some sense what it looks like to be accepted by like the masses. And even on like a personal level, being accepted by like people around you. Whatever the case may be, however it shows up. So, wanted to get like a couple of different perspectives on it for today. Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing me, both of y'all bringing me in on here.
Yeah, literally anytime. But our first kind of icebreaker to this idea is being recognized the same as being respected or just being managed? Mike, you came up with this question. That second part, just being managed, what did you mean by that?
I guess it's like, I don't know, being recognized and then being managed. Yeah, two sides of the same coin, because I guess if you look at like big Hollywood stars, whether it be actors or directors, writers, rappers, whoever the fuck it is, folks always talk about like having to fit within like a certain mold to like, I don't know, be like accepted by like the general audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being like, I don't want to say lowest common denominator, but like the most amount of people like ever, right? And then there are some people that don't have to. They're just like, let them do what they do, let them people do what they got to do. And then there are people that feel like, well, they perform like they have to be managed, they have to be manicured and clamped down. Like I think of Beyonce. Beyonce can do whatever the fuck she wants to do.
For sure.
Any given point. And there's a lot of people like that that are big enough to be able to do that. But then there are a lot of people that have to fit in a mold, and they have to figure out how to keep the lights on and shit. Like Beyonce's just doing this honestly for like legacy at this point. Trying to be the best, wanting to get like recognized in each genre that she performs in. But it's just something that came up because I feel like that's a dichotomy I feel like creators have to sort of deal with, even us to like a certain degree, like as we've been trying to build this thing up. There's always a lot of consideration about like who's going to see this, who's going to respond to this kind of way. There's a lot of thought that even goes into like the visuals, topics, when we release stuff, what time we release stuff, so we're managing everything in a certain sense, but we're also still kind of free because it's not like we have this shit ain't monetized yet. We hoping to get there.
Yeah.
This shit isn't really bound by any constraints. Actually, one of the things I've been seeing is how difficult YouTube is at sometimes. Some of our shit has been like, we use our music in the background, so the copyright has been a fucking thing, and that's something that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so long story short, I see that as a dichotomy for certain artists. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
For me, so I was just sitting here and like Googling basic definitions for recognize versus respect. And I think recognition is like a step towards respect, but I don't think that it's on par with it, just like based off like my own perception of what it means, but also like, so the definition says, the first definition for recognize is to identify someone or something from having encountered them before and to know somebody again. And then to respect somebody is to essentially like have a deep admiration for them due to like one of their qualities, something that they're good at, or just like a trait. And I think that when it comes to recognition, just to identify somebody, I feel like that's a pretty decent, like, it's a pretty, like, minimal thing to do, like, to just call somebody what they are. But I think that you can do that and still distance yourself from having respect for them. So the example that I was thinking about, to try to bridge that gap with, like, understanding is, like, I don't know if y'all watch the Joe Budden podcast or if y'all seen this clip specifically, with Mark Lamont Hill, where he was talking to what's that name? Slip or
Ish, the light skin dude, super light skin dude, that one.
Yeah, I believe so. And he was like shading him, and he was like talking about like, oh, you know, like everybody on here got up, because I think Joe Budden be pimping them out, trying to like make them fight. Yeah.
Wow.
But what's it? Mark was talking about some, you know, I bring the intellectualism, I bring this, I bring that, you know. There was another shawty on, she brings like the humor, she brings like, you know, her perspective, and then he like turns to like Queen Slip, and he's like, you bring whatever that is, you know.
Which is kind of crazy. He was joking, but it was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and after that, like Slip got really upset. But I look at that as recognition. Like to an extent, like that's an easy like identifier of like, yeah, here you are, you bring something. But that clearly like lacked respect in like him identifying what he was doing for the podcast. So I guess that would be like the example I would use. I think it's also like a tenet of like neoliberalism, like recognizing something without actually like doing all the things that you need to like. So I guess it's in alignment with like symbolism, not actually being true affirmation and like reparation. So all of those things kind of coalesce into like my ideas of like recognition versus respect.
And I guess making any of your art, any of your creations, you ever ran up against that kind of dichotomy? You know, I don't know, how do people respond, at least to you, in the way that you've been creating like things?
I think that that's something that like I need to sit with more and like think about, because I actually struggle with like being both recognized and respected. I know I've been getting like a lot of decent feedback, especially with like some of the work that I've been trying to do with like letting people speak and like curating and bringing people together, and I've gotten like a very good reception from like a multitude of people. It's always like compliments, but I think that there's something in me that don't really allow me to like really like hear that. Like I think it's a combination of like Kobe Bryant saying like, "Oh, job not done." Well, that was Kobe Bryant, right? Where was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And like kind of LeBron kind of has that same attitude of like, you know, like thanks for like the accolades or whatever, but like, you know, this is just like a thing, like not a thing but to minimize anything, but like it's a step to like a greater like thing that's trying to be achieved. And so, do I feel like of the two, like, do I feel like I've had like gripes with like being recognized versus respected? Or
even managed? Do you feel like I don't get the sense that there is like a bigger overhead nigga pulling the strings?
Yeah.
People speak, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do you ever feel like you have to create certain things for a certain I mean, we all got like our audiences. I feel like your audience is much more of like the queer, you know, like black
alternative
black folks here in this area, right?
Yeah.
And there are certain things that if you, I don't know, platform like a certain type of nigga, or brought like a certain type of nigga to like the open mics or whatever, they would look at you crazy.
Yeah. To an extent, I feel like I haven't felt like managed in any like, in a minute. Like I feel like I'm thinking back to like stuff that I might have been doing like in undergrad. I didn't necessarily feel managed, but what I will say is like I have had to grapple with like, if I'm gonna have a certain space and if it's going to bring in a bigger crowd, how do I maintain a certain understanding that, so it doesn't like go outside of the reins of like what the space is there for? Because I started to notice that happening. Like my friend has like a page called Here for a Good Time. They're a DJ. Their name is Seeking Peace on Instagram. Shout out to Peace. But yeah, Here for a Good Time, they do like a lot of collaboration with other like DJs and creatives. And so I started to get like a lot more traction when I started doing collaborative posts for events with them. And so the open mic that we did in May got a lot of people. Like it was so cozy and like so like convivial, but like I started to notice that a lot of like the people coming up to like perform, and I don't think it's necessarily inherently a problem, but it did stray from a message that I feel like I didn't do or I didn't know how to do in that setting the foundation of like explaining if you're coming up to the mic, like I feel like there's like a lot of performances that took away from like maybe a inherently political or like certain like, you know, ideology or whatever, I don't know. And I feel like it just became like just performance for the sake of like coming up and like putting your name down and performing, like, you know, a lot of songs, like a lot of poetry, but you could I could extrapolate from it the message that I wanted to like try to speak on at the end. But I think that wasn't inherently there, and so it made me realize like, I don't want to like shoot for like a big audience all the time if that means the message will be diluted. And so I've been having to grapple with like what ways in which do I want to like curate spaces and events and whatever and like share that without making it too mainstream or like popular and turning it into like, oh, like this thing is happening this night, everybody pull up, like, you know, like there's a time and a place for that. But so as to not detract from like a certain message or theme. Do
you feel like that happened because the audience was so big?
Yeah, I think that was the first time that like we had put together like an open mic that had that many people. I feel like the first two ones like from the previous years were a lot smaller, but it's still decent turnout. And it was a lot more intimate and easier to like, I feel like I also knew everybody that I would invite to previous open mics. And if there were people that I didn't know, they still knew somebody that I knew enough to like, but there was like hella people that I did not know. Like it was actually like kind of nerve-wracking. And I feel like once it's that, you know, it's harder.
Well, not even hearing that, I'm like, I could see how that could be a little weird. Because before, like you said, it sounds very like familial almost. It's people that you like really fuck with, people that you know, in a very like real sense, and they know what you on and you know what they on, and you can expect like a certain thing from them. If you put them in front of like a crowd and say go, they'll do kind of like there's synergy, there's unspoken something there. But you have so many niggas coming in that you know ain't part of the program or you know you ain't never seen before, and you're kind of just taking it on word from you know your homies that like oh they're good, they're cool or whatever, and like maybe like on paper baseline like yeah cool they're cool, but if there's like a direction, if there's a thing that you're trying to do, and you have all these people again in a sense that you can't manage or kind of wrangle together, yeah it's gonna kind of become its own thing, and I don't know, that even gets me to like wonder about like just the nature of art itself. You know, one thing I hear all the time is like when we go about like interpreting art, right, at a certain point it's no longer yours, you know. You give it to the world and it's kind of up to the world to tell you what it is. Like you maybe had your own intentions, your own things that you know weaved into it, sewn into it and all this other, but it's I don't know, I mean that's the dichotomy, like it's a back and forth. The people consuming it tell you kind of what it's about, and it's out of your hands at a certain point, and it sounds very similar to like what you're talking about, your the open mic, the baby that you have that you try to bring to people and they turn it into something else.
I don't really think it's a back and it should be a back and forth though. Like I feel like you know that's like comp theory 101. Like once you put something out, it don't belong to you no more. And I've seen a lot of times when an artist will put something out and it'll get backlash for whatever reason, and they'll get mad at the artist for not explaining themselves. And it's just like they've done all their explaining that they need, like they did this piece of work already, whether it be a painting, an album, a movie, or whatever. And it's I don't see the value in, if I made a thing with all the best intentions in the world and it means this way over here, and you look at it and you extrapolate something completely opposite, like how is that like my issue? Because at the end of the day, I was making it with like my intention and gaze on it, and you put yours on it, and there's no sense in arguing over who is right. It's like that's what you got, that's fine. Like objectively you're wrong, but subjectively I'm not gonna argue with you and be like you shouldn't have gotten that. Like it's kind of like I see a lot of times for instance like if you like Lolita or like any of those older books that kind of deal with perversion or just kind of like quote unquote bad topics, people will look at a piece of art showing a bad thing and label it as a championing of that thing, or holding it up or agreeing with that thing just because it's shown, and like that's not what that means. I would argue most of the time, because you know otherwise what is journalism at that point? what is holding truth to power. You have to show people things to make them be aware. And if we have this mindset of, oh, since you showed it, that means you agree with it, that's sullying the message. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that also kind of makes me wonder too, because I hear what you're saying, and to a certain degree, I think I agree. I feel like, in a different realm, when it comes to speech or, you know, political engagement or whatever, I'm definitely much more authoritarian with that shit. I do not, no nigga, you're not coming up here. There's nothing to argue about. There's nothing to talk about. And that's different from art. That's different from like an expression. But even still, like, I even wrestle with like the phrase people always say that all art is like political, and like there's a conversation to be had there. I don't know if it is. I haven't delved too deeply into that like train of thought, but I can see that, right? So put that to the side. If there is like some political message that is undergirding why you create this thing of art, you know, it has to be very clear what the critique is and what the endorsement is. And I think that's just part of the responsibility of like the artist at a certain point, because it's like, you know, unless you make it explicitly clear. But even still, like, conservatives listen to fucking Rage Against the Machine when they think of.
Well, that's the thing. Like, yeah, like, I think that in particular is it's like I think it's a purposeful. Wow, I heard all of that. I heard all of that.
Wait, you was trying.
Thirsty ass nigga. That's crazy.
I'll drive my fast nigga.
Like,
Hey, yeah.
like drinking ginger beer, diasporic ass nigga.
Drink it. Okay.
The drink, bottoms up ass, cheers ass nigga. Micah, leave all of this in. Actually, this nigga thirsty. That's crazy.
Thirsty as shit.
It's great though.
Good.
But like I was saying, that's a purposeful, misleading and misrepresenting message. Because like all those conservatives that would listen to Rage Against the Machine, they listened to that when they was young, when they was youth, like when they had more liberal politics, and now they're extrapolating the message and just enjoying it as sonics and trying to usurp it and use it for their own thing. But I think actually like Ta-Nehisi, anybody that knows me knows I love Ta-Nehisi Coates. He did a really good example of people like grabbing onto his message, not liking it, and then him like doubling down and like re-emphasizing. So in one of his first books, Between the World and Me, he kind of references no, it wasn't that. It was the case for reparations. He references reparations and how it was given to like the Japanese Americans, and Jewish people from the German state. And when he was, that kind of pushed him into stardom. And when he was going to these talks about it, Palestinians were kind of like, hey, you grossly like overlooked something within this kind of context. And he went on a whole thing, like went to Palestine, all these things. And then his most recent book, The Message, he said that moment of learning new information was a catalyst for him fixing like his lack of knowledge. And so, but he didn't, try to defend himself in the moment or be all like, or berate people or anything like that. It was just like, well, let me see what they're saying, see if I agree even. And then he did the work and like made another piece of work. And I think that's the thing. It's not to be like, because when I start like putting out movies and stuff like that, and people don't like it for whatever reason, I'm not finna be on the internet arguing niggas. I'm just not gonna do that, because it takes away from the work. I'm gonna receive what they said, and if I agree or I did miss something, I'm going to make something else to address that.
Question on that. So, just so I understand, you're saying arguing with them, going back and forth, you're saying that takes away from the work?
I feel like, yeah.
How so?
Because it's like it's distracting. And also I feel like, especially in this day and age where like everybody has a microphone, no pun intended, like everybody can I feel like a lot of times people aren't even saying what they feel because they view the piece. They're saying their thoughts on people's thoughts, and that's very meta. And it's kind of like when you're trying to learn how to sing, let's say like Aretha Franklin, and so you study her. You might get close, and then somebody else likes the way you sing, and then they emulate you. But really, it's just like Aretha learned how to sing from the church. Like it's like that's 3 degrees of separation from the source. So if we're arguing about arguments, what are we talking about? Just like for all the theory that we read and everything like that, the material conditions come first, and then theory comes after observation. So it's kind of like why a lot of people in, the academy have this distance from what they're learning about because they actually cannot see it, don't do the work to root themselves in it, and all in all misunderstand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. To add a little to that, there is like theoretical like basis for this. One of the people I spent the last like year, 2 years reading for like my school and research and shit is Jean Baudrillard, right? He's a leftist French thinker from like the 60s, and it's very interesting. Like he's always fascinating to me because he predicted and like kind of like saw his way into the future in some sense, like predicting kind of the impact that mass media has on us. And one of the terms he used to describe is called simulacra, right? I don't know if he originated the term, but a simulacra is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy.
Like a deep fried meme.
Exactly, like a deep fried meme. Such to the point that it takes on a life of its own and it no longer even represents or bears any sort of resemblance to the initial referent. And there are a lot of examples of this like throughout life. One of the things that I think I like to give when I was trying to explain this to people back in the day is like if you think of a princess, right? Yeah. Maybe the first thing that pops into your head might be like Cinderella or Ariel.
Princess Peach. Shout out to her.
Yeah. Princess Peach, right? If you have that as your primary sort of like ideal of what shows up in your mind as a princess, that's not what an actual princess looks like. Like a princess references like in 16th century, 15th century, daughter of like a noble or something like that.
Right.
And the ways in which they act and the ways in which they like behaved and looked are 100% different from like the very finite, very particular image that we get from media. Right? So if you take that is an interpretation of this like original thing, and then you have somebody moving on into the future and they want to create themselves a version of a princess, and they use this reference point, the Princess Peach, the Cinderella, the Ariel, and they extrapolate from that, they're going to turn it into something completely different. And at a certain point, you take that down the line, it's no longer going to look like the original reference point. And there's like a million trillion things like that, and social media does that. Social media fragments us and removes us from like the initial point. That's why people I hate it. That's why people hate when white people take like black slang, because there's an origin point from where that comes from.
Yeah.
I remember it was maybe last year before, somebody was saying like, actually no, this is a recent one. Somebody was saying like they thought unk meant uncool.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
really?
And they were explaining it to somebody else with such confidence that like, no, it means uncool.
Yeah.
Like
like the way that
I see how they got there.
Yeah.
But that's so but that's so wrong.
Yeah.
And then I'm also wondering, did you because are we doing the shorthand language thing where you're saying UNC is like a shorthand for uncool?
Right, that's what I was thinking.
If that's your connection, I'm like, then you're very wrong.
Yeah.
But if you get like the gist of like what unk means, like to an extent, you kind of hit in the right ballpark. But you do kind of miss a lot of nuance on kind of like with GAT and how they did not understand that was like ultra short and abbreviated form of goddamn. Yeah. And they just referred it to just having a fat ass. Yeah. Like that they turned it into a noun.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you know what? That's the thing. I also like studied linguistics like a little bit in undergrad because it was fascinating. One of the things is that
okay, Mr. Nigga.
There's theories, right? That like
we got T.I. with us.
Actually, if you want to hyperbolate the condominium of indubitably,
What's that word he like to use? It don't mean what the fuck he think it. Nah, cause the word it means T.I. Cause the word that he like to use is that it's when you talk about something in like a not a pretentious way, but like
pontificate.
Yeah, pontificate. He's like, I need to pontificate, and he got the straightest, most serious face. I'm like, sir, the word is making fun of you right now.
He released a stand-up special.
Are you being serious, or are you? He released a stand-up special.
He released a stand-up special.
Let me fact check this nerd real quick.
What was this?
It was like December 26th.
I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch it too.
I'm gonna hit my ball.
Oh my days, he did.
Well, he's been doing stand-up for like a grip. Right?
Really?
Like, yeah.
First thing that popped up, I said T.I. stand-up comedy. It says T.I. cheaper than therapy. Gets booed. He got a booing standing ovation.
You said he got a standing ovation.
A booing standing ovation.
For how long?
This video is 1 minute and 12 seconds.
I've been seeing him over the last couple years. Like he's been popping up at like TMZ report on it. T.I. doing a stand-up special at a comedy club. Or whatever. And niggas in the comments.
That sounds like an Onion like headline. Like
the thing is, he's not funny. Everybody is always like, this nigga is not funny. He don't know how to deep.
That's the difference between people laughing with you and at you.
Yeah.
We're laughing at you, you think you funny.
My thing is like he's trying to get into comedy. As you're like working your way up to it, it's like, yeah, you're not gonna be good. And comedians say that you have to go to the club to like practice the jokes, to like refine them and stuff. So that's part of the process of just being shit and bombing and shit like that. So I'm like, okay, cool, maybe. But he felt good enough to release a special. Yeah. And I really want to see what it's like. I
don't think he felt good. It's like he had the resources to.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like the difference of like.
He released it on a Grand Hustle. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and my thing, I think it's probably worse too because he has such a big audience right up front. Right. Like most comedians when they start out, they're going to the club, but people are talking, people are heckling them actively, people are drinking, people are talking to each other, and so you're not even really, getting the audience for real, even though people are in front of you. Yeah. But people are all coming like, all right, nigga, let's see what you got. Yeah. And it's ass.
And he's already a running joke as is.
As is.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame.
But he sat down and wrote. Well, I hope he did.
I mean, he's a writer. He's a rapper.
I hope he did.
Yeah.
But he sat down and wrote some jokes. Just for
I don't know.
But you study linguistics.
Linguistics, just a little bit.
Yeah.
At a certain point, like there's theories about linguistics that when it comes to words and meanings and things like that, the meaning is whatever people use the word as. It's not what it originally was.
Right.
And again, this is I still think the most like profound thing that I still take with me. Casey said we reinterpreted nigga. Nigga is
yeah, we did.
And nigga is still. It depends on how you say nigga
or
nigga.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It depends on how you say the shit. But like it's just how people use it. So I don't like it. But like if the kids have turned gyat into a noun, it's kind of like that's how language progresses. And I feel like that's not something we can resist. I think black people just make themselves angry and mad about that type of shit. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we live in a globalized world. We got the internet now. The second you tweet something, like as a creator on Twitter, because that's what everybody is. The second you put something on Twitter or on Instagram,
it don't belong to you.
Nope.
And niggas can take it. That's the also crazy thing about fucking social media. It's expanded this like creator consumer dynamic to every single person ever. That's why niggas be on Twitter talking about we weren't supposed to see everybody's thoughts like this.
Yeah,
he wasn't.
Niggas that had IEPs, and shout out to all my IEP people out there. But the niggas in the gifted program and the IEP niggas, and the in-school suspension niggas, all got the same platform and can all say the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
And go ahead. What's wrong?
I'm thinking like that, like we went to separate classrooms for a reason. I'm just kidding.
Hey yo,
we about to get canceled. We just
hey.
No, we right.
But in my defense, I have taken remedial classes while my brother was in gifted classes. So I'm like, I'm able to.
So you're speaking from the ground. You're speaking from the interior.
But I was also in the gifted classes.
Okay. I was in school suspension hella times.
I was not. I was strictly in gifted classes.
Look, you see how he tried to pull his light skin card on us? Like, he said, look at these two niggas on the couch.
So actually, the audience had never seen my face. This light skin, hearsay. That's crazy.
Got me pissed off.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Dark niggas got me fucked up.
Right, niggas on the couch wearing black.
Yeah,
I'm wearing white.
Like, I'm wearing white.
And you see the sky behind me? They got the wall behind them.
I'm so glad we're not recording this because all they say is truth. This is crazy.
But this is how it should be. This is how Twitter should be. Like, you know, you get your side and we get, you know. I try to make it.
Separate dark to light.
Shut your ass up, nigga.
I try to be deep.
See, look, this is what happens when we get guests on the show. Is that Micah likes to act out, you know, in front of mixed company. But that's all right.
Hey, mixed company.
He said I'm acting different now.
Yeah, nah, it's cool. It's
Right.
cool.
No, we respect you, Dana. We respect you. Solidarity between them.
Yes, salami, eggs, and bacon.
Yes. Intellectual solidarity.
Just intellectual
Well, intellectual, you know, colors, all the things.
colors.
Shades, hues.
But that to get back on track, when you was talking about African American vernacular English, it reminded me of. Are you familiar with the writer Kiese Layman? He wrote this memoir called Heavy. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But in the book, he talks about, and he brings it up in two separate books. But he talks about this idea of black abundance, and it reminded me of this idea of black genius. Because on the internet, I've been seeing a lot of, I guess, expanding of black genius, where, you know, they'll say like, oh, how black people are resilient is a form of that. How we create something out of nothing is a example of that. And just, I guess, expanding it outside of like a hardcore material art thing. But one of the things that we've been ruminating on is who benefits when black genius gets an award. And that reminded me of both Renaissance by Beyonce and Kendrick in the Super Bowl. And I've seen a lot of discourse on that, and I think that's an example of black genius getting recognition. But the respect, it's kind of like the respect came first. Or rather, let me take that back. The recognition from the community came first, then the respect, and then it got so high that it kind of broke through, and now is recognized by, you know, the zeitgeist. But I don't know if that zeitgeist has the respect to understand like what it took for them to do that, like how their creation infers upon so much over the course of decades and during their life and before their life to get there. Like, what do y'all think about like who benefited from those, you know, monuments of art that they did do?
Yeah, I don't know. Thinking about that particular example, because I can at least speak on the Kendrick one. I'm not a Beyonce person, but like, which don't blame me for that. But you know,
Please.
We know.
Beyonce person.
it's like,
Sorry.
I don't think white people benefited from it. Not in any sort of real way. Like maybe the Super Bowl, you know, the NFL. They talked about. I remember seeing the numbers that day that like that performance spiked like to millions of viewers, and then immediately after it fucking dipped because I wasn't sticking around to see the fucking game. I didn't fuck, but
I did. I wanted to see the Chiefs lose, and they did.
I don't care about sports. That's the difference. But you know, like I tuned in for that. I don't watch Siatta, just like you said. I don't watch TV, but I watch TV for that. And you know, in a real sense, I don't know if some of us were a little disappointed. Like I think some of us wanted a lot more radical, a much more radical statement. And I don't know. It brings up a question too about like what we do demand and ask from artists too, because one, I don't think Kendrick is like the radical. And I guess he's been saying it in the music too as well. He's not the radical messiah. He's not, you know, a leftist, Marxist, anarchist, you know, theory read genius. He's more spiritual and more artistic than anything else, right? And he stands on principles and shit like that, because he's, you know, gang affiliated and shit like that. And that's almost like an equivalent of like being brought up in like the military, right? Like there's certain, it's not 1-to-1, I know that, but like
no, I know what you mean.
There's something there.
And that's weird how like so personally I loved that Super Bowl performance. I thought it was beautiful, and I was actually shocked when I went and saw the discourse from Black folk of expecting this, like you said, this politically radical thing when he not only has he never said that, which I think not saying something and being something don't have to always connect, but he's never been that. Yeah. Like, what makes Kendrick great is his ability to explain the black experience in such depth and artistic detail. Yeah. Like, that's what makes him great. Like,
I want to push back for a second, because there was a point where he was like that. To Pimp a Butterfly was him saying that I am that and I will take on that responsibility.
I disagree with that.
And I mean, all of To Pimp a Butterfly was him like dealing with his like trauma and dealing with like ascending to fame and money and all these things and his responsibilities to his community and everything like that. All of that is in there. But if you look, like, even outside of the art, there, I referenced maybe specifically the interview he did with like what the fuck was that nigga's name? It was like an MTV interview with
Zane Lowe.
Rob Martin.
Okay.
And Rob like asked him specifically. He was like, you know, people are like comparing you to like MLK and Malcolm, and you know, what do you think about that? Is that like a responsibility? And the sentiment that he responded with was like, I'll take that on. If that's what it is, if that's what people ask of me, and that's what they want from me, I'll take that on. And people felt that in the music, and as people used All Right during the 2020, I don't even know if it was the 2020, but like people were using his music as like an anthem because it was comforting and it spoke to something that I think people wanted and needed. And when he took that on, when the people placed him there, and he also said, I will take that on. Now when Damn comes out, he's wrestling with the fact that maybe I can't do this. Maybe giving music to the people is not enough for them to change their mind, to do what needs to be done to clear our communities and make us get to a place where we need to be. And then Mr. Morale comes out and he's fully formed and saying to himself, I chose me, I'm sorry. I can't be what y'all want me to be. Kendrick is not your savior. That's the trajectory that he's been on. He believed in the hype so much to Pimp a Butterfly, and between then and Damn, to the point where he was like, yes, this is what it is, this is what they want from me, I will do this. And then he was disappointed because he couldn't do it. No one man can do it, of course. That's the whole point of organizing in community and solidarity, because it's never going to be on one person. It's not a singular issue, it's a collective issue. So there was a point where he was wearing that, and I don't think people understood that truly in the music he was telling us that he's no longer that. And I think people were looking more for him to. There's a quote I remember. I don't know where it came from, who I heard it from, but it's like, if the devil is in your audience, you gotta slap the shit out of him. You gotta tell him about himself.
Yeah.
Donald Trump was there.
Yeah.
The administration had just came in. Super Bowl was in February. Them niggas got elected in January, and it was on fuck shit from day one.
Yeah.
People expected something. People wanted something. And again, he's one man. He's a millionaire. But like, he's still one man, and he can't undermine hundreds and hundreds of years of settler colonialism, of capital exploitation, of racist domination, across this country and abroad. But people expected something more, and he said something with his music, with the performance. The performance artistically was like beautiful, set-wise, the way that they had choreography, everything was beautiful. But in terms of messaging, I think it was moderate. I think it was average. I think people expected more, people wanted more. I think people needed more, because he had that audience and he didn't take that opportunity.
As you were saying that, like, I was like thinking, and I was like synthesizing like the issue here, and like the crux, like what's doing the most work in what you're saying is the expectation that people had for him to do a thing that they felt would symbolize something that meant something. And I think what people are getting mixed up in and fucked up with is that the symbol of Kendrick Lamar doing something that was seemingly more radical, they felt like there would be something material that would come from it. And my pushback at that is like, and many other people was like, why? Because I was watching something by Professor Jared Ball. His YouTube is I Mix What I Like, and he was talking about like how,
Shout out Dr. Ball.
Shout out Dr. Ball. He was talking about how like cultural power will never be something that has any true tangible benefit to like our community. And I think that it goes, if I connect this to like the Kendrick Lamar thing, but also what we were talking about at the beginning of like what you said, Dana, with like when you start producing films and like dropping them. You're not arguing with niggas on Twitter and stuff. The issue with like the relationship between the audience and like the maker is that people as a whole have made an audience of themselves in real life, in the sense of like they only look to certain folks as being performers of a certain thing. And that's where I feel like you can get to the point of like so many people pushing back at Kendrick Lamar for not doing a more radical performance, because they enfranchise the symbolism, even though the system doesn't enfranchise the symbolism. It really just pacifies the audience. And so the argument that is had with the creator or whatever the artist about what was produced is kind of like, in a sense, like a disenfranchising of the individual, because you are now looking to a person to be the bastion, the bringer in of some type of messaging that will change the conditions, instead of understanding like, and it's kind of like not like a humiliation kick, but it feels like a power dynamic that like we continue to play into and are honestly very intimate with, but are not very aware of, in the sense of like, by looking at like the artist to be the person to express what you feel, you now demean yourself, in the sense like you can never express yourself in any way that is like valid. And there was one more thing that I was gonna say around this desire, I guess. It feels very parent and child. This desire to have like, because I guess at the end of the day, if the question is, if the mandate is when the devil is in your audience, you have to slap the shit out of him. There have been so many times in which these power holders have had the direct truth in their face and it hasn't done anything. So my question is like, if we understand like Kendrick Lamar doing a more radical, like whatever the fuck, like performance, would not have really seriously changed anything other than like maybe spark more of a cultural like discussion or and like of a symbolism. What is the alternative of like, because I think when I was watching FD's like analysis, he was saying like low-key like this is like the best thing that Kendrick could have decided to do with his performance, because something that would have gone too radical would have kind of shot him in the foot, but something that would have been too like lukewarm also would have been like, you wasted your you know. And the covert messaging and like the themes that he decided to put in really did recognize and pay respect to a lot of black culture in ways that people who are intimate with culture, black culture, were able to see. And I'm like, does that do something more? So I don't know, I feel like that was a half-baked thought, but like that is what I'm thinking about, like in terms of like the relationship between the audience and Kendrick Lamar, of like, do something more radical. What does that actually do other than like cultural, you know, power and significance? To
that point, it reminds me of Nina Simone, where like her famous quote of like, the artist's job is to reflect the times. And I feel like people kind of take that and make it bigger than like what I feel that she meant. Whereas that like everybody has a job and a role, and we can't, like one person can't do it all. So if you are an artist, especially like a musician, it's like, to tell the truth, like I saw this happen, now I'm going to tell you what happened through my eyes, through my lens, right? So because actually saying, for instance, saying that was racist is not the same thing as saying I'm against racism.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody has a different role to play. Kendrick actually does a very good job of reflecting the times through his lens. Because if you take To Pimp a Butterfly, for example, it's actually very much, it's still through the guise of like his spirituality, of like wrestling. Because like if you look at For Free, it's his feelings about pimping his art to the industry. If you look at Mortal Man, or like How Much a Dollar Cost, like it's that's a spiritual conversation between him rising and like God manifesting in a homeless person. Like it's still through that thing. Now, would you say it's politically charged? Yeah, but especially with the album cover. But can you really say like this is Kendrick's ideas on politics? I can't really say you can say that. Now, if you are, there's some people who kind of do both. Like for instance, James Baldwin, but like his role was different because he was a writer and a writer's role is different from a musician's role, even though they use the same type of technique. Because like an album and a book are satisfying different needs, but there's also politicians, there are also actual activists, there are also like all these different types of people who can be on the same side, but we're doing different things. Because the activists who don't got no music chops or nothing, I don't want to hear nothing from you on wax. You know what I mean? And honestly, sometimes it'd be a little bit cringy when I see artists like out there protesting, and they just kind of like are standing there looking crazy. You know? So it's just like we all got our roles to play, and we should play them.
And that's exactly kind of what I was thinking. Siatta, even as you were talking, like the question of like what would it do, you know, if Kendrick went out and was more radical. And it's like, yeah, well, asking that question, like I know that's not your intention, but when people ask that question, I know it's to like disregard the possibility of him doing something radical. And it's like, in doing that, we completely negate like how important that would have been. We would be talking about it so much more differently. I remember when the election results came out and he was elected, people were so demoralized because it felt like we had been, like people were tired. There had been a fight to try to prevent him from getting back into office all throughout the entire like Biden presidency. He gets back in and people thought the fight was over, but it wasn't. The fight is never over because regardless of Kamala or whoever the fuck got in, Palestine is still being bombed. There's genocide going on across the country. The Sudan.
It's like we needed to win. It's like we needed to win because like we've been fighting for the better part of 10 years and losing.
We haven't been winning, and morale is an important thing. The capacity for people to feel like there are people on their side, powerful people on their side, that are saying something, that are in support of them in some sense or fashion, is necessary, especially for any. We're not in a revolutionary moment, but in a revolutionary movement, art plays as significant a role as the organizing. It's material warfare as well as ideological and psychological, and all of those things factor in. And in a revolutionary movement, artists play an important role.
That goes back to your point earlier of once you put something out, however people take it is how they take it. Like I'm sure, I'm 1,000% positive that when Kendrick made All Right, he did not expect it to be literally the battle cry for BLM. Like that's a lot. Like that. I really do wonder like how he felt in that moment of like truly, because obviously in the interview he's gonna be like, I take that on because what would it look like for you to not say that? You know what I mean? But could that be crazy? But like actually how that feels, it's like, oh, people actually, and then so it's kind of like you have to. I see why Dan was made, because it's kind of like you it's like you get disillusioned with your position, but it does kind of go to that kind of black, I feel like, I guess, effect of showing up and showing out, and we kind of always put it at both. Like first part, you got to get there, but once you get there, like you got to do something about it. Yeah,
can I say something real quick to like both you and Dana and what you just said, Micah? Because like, to the like, excuse me, to the question of like, what does it do, and then the importance of having a big figure be on the same alignment if you like, you know, ideologically. My question to that is like, well, not my question, but I think that is absolutely significant, and I think that yes, that's why I like love music and culture and like art, because I think that there needs to be a medium for these type of like, you know, spectrum of radical like messages to be put out. But my question is like, what happens when the morale that's boosted and like maintained, when like the masses don't know how to, like there's not enough infrastructure with organizing for the masses to take that morale and then use it to propel themselves forward in terms of like the goals? Because what happens when the audience is just dazzled by the lights and the performance, and they fail to realize that like the light is creating a smoke screen to like either strike or get away from like whatever is the opposition. And I feel like that's what happens a lot with art and culture. People get dazzled by the performance and the feelings that comes from result of witnessing the performance and then have no tools to take those good feelings to, you know, further the cause. Because I'm like, I think about even like within the last 5 years of like all the like, you know, all that was brewing up in the 2010s to lead to 2020 with the protests and all like, you know, different strides that we thought we were getting in symbolism, like with what's it called, not affirmative action, but DEI and all these things that were so easily stripped back in like a span of 5 years. You know, I feel like that's connected to like what I'm saying in the sense of like what happens like when we have these big feelings, but there's not enough like, I guess, discipline or whatever structure to funnel that into like long lasting significant change that's bigger than the actual performance itself. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point, and it kind of, I feel like we're talking about like a lot of the same things in different shapes, like, because to me that reminds me of what I just said of different jobs and different roles. Like when I used to be a journalist, I'm retired now, but nothing ain't like inspired me more for like, as far as like politics go, than when I was doing journalism. Like, cause to be a good journalist is like, you have to be out there. You really gotta like touch people, you gotta talk to people, and it's also a strategy of like getting them to trust you enough to tell you things. And to get that trust, you gotta give something. Yeah. So if it's like, okay, well, I'ma come to your speech, and it's like, okay, can I get an interview? It's just like, well, I got 5 minutes, but I gotta walk. You gotta walk with me. Okay, cool. Now I'm doing an interview while we walk into the next thing, and then this happens, and then like you really got to be out there. Yeah. And that charges you more because it's like you're chasing truth, right? And like that's the thing. But when I saw what's that movie? One Battle After Another. Like, are you familiar? Are you familiar?
I haven't watched it, but I know.
So like basically the backdrop is that there's these this leftist revolutionary group. That's the backdrop to the movie. But people were mad at that movie because it didn't delve into the politics, but it's like it's actually not about the politics. But when I watched that movie, it didn't it didn't inspire me to delve more into politics than I already am. It inspired me to make movies. And that's what it's supposed to do. There could be a conversation there about what it was about and all these things, but it's not going to get us any closer to liberation, freedom, and all these things that we need. It's going to do its job in a different way. So maybe we'll have less right-wing media, or we'll have counter propaganda to the right propaganda. And you know, when you see somebody out in the streets like helping the people, that should activate you to do more of those things that actually get us closer. But again, different jobs, different times, different outcomes.
You know, in a large part, that's really what I want, like, Red Clay to be.
Yeah.
Because a large part of what we need to do is to be multifaceted, because particularly in the American context, or the U.S. context, in the 21st century, like, reactionaries and conservatives, they have a grip over all of the facets of American life, right? They have it in media, in business, in culture, politics, government, all of these different areas. And for us to think that approaching just politics and, you know, doing class struggle in that particular way is a little naive. Unfortunately, we have to complicate things a lot more because we live in a complicated world. It's not enough to... in previous days, you could just chop the head off the king, and that was it. Power is diffused all across this country. We have military bases on every continent in this fucking world, in damn near every country. And it's not even just government. It's a blend of corporate, private, and governmental entities, all interconnected in a web together. And to untangle that web, that's how we get liberated. And it has to be international too, because most of them corporations are in other countries, are in other continents. That's why we need solidarity across the globe, because we will need them if we talking about seizing the means of production or undermining, you know, private entities. We need those people that are going to be in other places as well, because we have to act in accordance with them. They know what it's like. They know what it's like going to that factory every day. The niggas that they got in Indonesia making fucking sponges for like 2 pennies a day. We need them to fucking run up in there and tear that shit down just as much as they need us to
stop buying the shit.
Yeah.
In a very, very real way. So, you know, also to your point, it's like, just imagine if we had like a organizing political entity that also had artists as part of it, right? That also, you know, did childcare. That also did education in this way. We need to, in a very real way, be integrated in people's different areas of life, because Americans are very particular. Americans look and expect very particular things, and yeah, this is a start, and that's what I wanted to grow it into. But to make a change, we can't approach it from one direction, which is why we can't expect Kendrick himself to be the change that we see in the world. But it's also why, in a very real way, we can't expect BLM, we can't expect the PSL, we can't expect, you know, the DSA, we can't expect Mamdani, we can't expect Obama, we can't expect any of them niggas as singular entities to do anything more than what they can do, because it has to be a unified effort across multiple different facets of American life. And I mean, this is a start, so I don't know. It starts on YouTube. Hopefully in a year from now, niggas will see us documented all across the world.
For sure.
All across Virginia, we'll say that. We'll start
at the very least.
At the very least, but yeah.
Nah, I think that was a great way to end off the episode. Siatta, thank you for coming by again.
Thank you. You know, anytime.
Yeah, you'll be seeing more of them.
See you.
This is the Red Clay Podcast, and we'll see y'all next time.